Prashant, thank you so much for joining me today. Super excited to chat with you. All right, Prashant, you are the co-founder at Spheron Network, which is a global decentralized compute provider and marketplace. Can you tell me about your background quickly before digging into everything you're doing and building? Because I mean, a decentralized compute marketplace is pretty crazy. So, how did you decide to pursue this?
Oh man, I think if I go into my background, I have to talk a lot, but just on a very high level, I'm always excited about when I see something which is revolutionary happening, be it anything. So even from my background, I was the first person who moved out from my house to pursue engineering because most of the people in my house was like business driven, and they all have been doing the business since starting. When I got into job, I just realized one thing. Okay, what is the area which is most excited about? And I always looked at which is foundational layer. In the world of real estate, I also love real estate a lot. The reason being because in the real estate, you own the land. Whosoever owns the land, they win a lot. The same goes with the digital side. Whosoever owns the digital world, if you look at digital world, whosoever owns the infrastructure, they own the digital world in theory, in practicality also. So that really pushed me and get me excited about, and that's how my journey has started. Like I worked in call center, switched to became a software engineer and then I worked with Siemens Healthcare, learned a lot about healthcare technologies and everything, how GDPR and HIPAA compliances looks like. Gone deeper into infra, so much deeper that I was not even able to come out of it multiple times. So that's my background. And then I spent close to around 6 years in Web2 world, like working heavily into infrastructure, code optimization, and tons of other theoretical part, practical part, which I implemented on ground and had all of those knowledge. And then eventually learned about Web3 and came here with my co-founder. So that's my background. So I'm a pure infra guy, learned everything from the scratch, everything else in Web3, be it accounts, legals, token, and blah, blah, blah. I learned tons of other things. So yeah, that's my background is all about so it's a very high level brief. Okay. If I go deeper, it will take an entire session around it.
Awesome. Okay. So tell me about the ideation you had around Spheron Network, where you're like, hey, compute is going to be needed because of X reason, like we have to pursue this, or how do you come up with that initial idea?
Yeah, I think Spheron is a pivot of what we have been doing earlier. So we were doing data storage and the web hosting. But while we were doing that, okay, so the problem statement at Spheron as a whole, as an entity, what we wanted to solve is how we can make Web3 infrastructure more accessible. As I said earlier, right, I'm a real estate. I love real estate. The reason being because I know the people who own the land, they control everything, right? So that's how it works. The same goes in infra play also, right? Whoever owns that infra, they control it. Now, if we are building in Web3, the logical reasoning is we have to ensure that the foundational layer of the Web3, which is infrastructure, is owned by community. If it is not, then in theory, what you are saying, or not in theory, I think in practicality also, what you are saying is we are building something which is very decentralized, amazing, but the owner of this decentralized infrastructure is AWS and GCPs and cloud infrastructure, which you look out there. It's completely irrelevant, this statement, and not even closer to what the world should look like, right? The way all the Web3 maxis and all the Web3 folks basically look around. So that's how the problem statement kind of started, is like how we can solve that infra related issues first, like, and make it more accessible. So we started with data storage, because there were protocols like Filecoin and all of these protocols which were building. And we thought like, why people are not storing their data on these protocol when they exist, right? When we got deeper into, we built solution. We did not succeed, or you can say we succeeded, but it has not created enough value for us to keep on building for 10 years, right? The same with the web hosting, the same thing happened. Like people who speak a lot about decentralization, when you go and ask them, is like, is your website domain or even your data is decentralized enough? I'll honestly tell you, like openly also, even I know there might be folks who might be hearing this out. They will tell you, no, we don't care, right? So if they don't care, then why we should care, right? And as a community, why everyone should care? But at least we did our part, like, to do that. Then suddenly we started seeing since I come from also solution architect background, I think more things in a more solution driven way. In 2023, starting, if you remember, there was a whole journey, whole basically hype created around DAs, data availability layers, right? And you might have seen Celestia came in, and then Avail came in, and then other projects which were like working on around DA came in. While we were doing that, since I came from enterprise background earlier, there is a terminology in enterprise called microservices, and a lot of these startups, not even enterprises, basically startups and everyone, work on this microservices architecture. And it's a very small architecture just for audience here who don't know about microservices. It's imagine like you have a one work which you have to achieve. So you break that work in 10 different smaller works, which are very independent to each other. And then you give it to the people who are experts in doing that. So that's basically microservices does in software world also. Now, if the moment DA came into picture, one thing which I knew that the world is going towards more modularity, because the more modular the world will become, which is Web3 in our case, the more compute resources we are going to need. Right? There's no way a world can exist in a Web3 in a digital world without compute resources. And that's how the journey of Spheron started. We said there is a huge demand of compute which will come around. And there are literally zero players who solve this at scale. There are few in the market, but at scale, literally zero, because they have foundational issues. Why can't we go ahead and approach this problem statement and solve it? Because we have already been building on the infra. We know in and out of a lot of things which a lot of the new builders don't even know. In Web3, it exists, right? And that became our moat. And that's how we started at Spheron. We said like, okay, let's go and build robust compute layer, which people should be able to go ahead and access at scale. And that's how the journey started. Like we wanted to ensure that whenever somebody launch a node, that node should go on a decentralized infra versus centralized infra. And that is when we partnered with Avail team, like from our side, and very amazing team. They partnered with us. We deployed close to around 10,000 or 15,000 Avail nodes on decentralized infrastructure, which nobody has spoken in the open market. The reason being because, again, we were very early, and people talk about the people like who have tokens, and we did not have. So that kind of like opened up a lot of verticals within. Within 2 months, we were sitting at around $1.3 million ARR and all of those stuff. But then we decided, okay, because that was our starting point, is to keep something centralized and do it. But eventually we hit with the same thought. We want to ensure that things are permissionless at Spheron. And that's why we signed up here. Or else our life was very good at Web2 world. Like we were happily earning, we were happily living our life, nothing was bothering us. The reason we joined Web3 was that revolution which it brings on the table, allowing everyone around the world to participate by compute providers, by becoming the compute providers and opening the infra for all. So we said like, no, we don't want to keep it centralized. We want to go ahead and do it. And that's when Spheron protocol born. And that's the initial thought of it, where we wanted to bring compute from all across the world. We wanted to treat the world as a singular entity, where let's say Andrew has a machine, I have a machine, there's a data center which has a machine, there are a lot of machines which are idle. We wanted to put them together so that anyone, let's say project like Avail, project like anyone who wants to looking for example, recently we onboarded team Hurist, who is doing amazing job in inferencing layer. We have onboarded Cusco team, like all of these teams doing amazing work. They're using Spheron compute community infra to power their side. Some part of them is also on Spheron. So that's the starting point of Spheron. That was the whole vision, is to build something which is so robust and people would love to use it. They should not hesitate. Hey, you know what? Web3 infra doesn't work. No, that's not what we wanted. We want to ensure that when developer comes into the Spheron, they should fall in love with it. Like they should just, like no, I'm not switching to Web2 company. That should be the language coming out from the developers when they use. And that is what we have built at Spheron. That is what we are building at Spheron. UX experience with permissionless model. That's what Spheron is all about, to capture the Web3 infra demand.
Can you compare and contrast how the current system of compute works today in like, I don't know, Amazon data centers, and maybe there's smaller players as well that are also centralized, and just kind of explain how that works and who the players are. And then I'd love for you to talk about how the decentralized system that you're creating improves on areas that the centralized version is lacking.
Amazing. So first thing first. So let's think about AWS, GCP, and all of these players. Like who are in the market? Who are the biggest players? And again, I'm restating this. Is we are not at a position. Not me. None of the existing decentralized companies are at a position. They can also put me wrong by commenting on this once this video will go out. Would love to hear their thoughts. But I'm telling that is none of us are very close to them on multiple things. But there are few places where we are way ahead than them. Okay, and we have to capitalize on it, not to compete with them. And that is where I go and say to everyone, we are not here to compete with Web2 players. If we are doing that, we are not the same. We are creating altogether different vertical, which is not even compatible to them because our use cases and their use cases are very different. Now, coming to some use case like bifurcation, for example, in AWS and GCP, they have something called EC2 instances, VMs, and everything, which they lease out, right? In Web3 world, there are very few players who provide the VMs. So that basically means like we are not at all comparable at this point of time. We are a Docker-based systems, they are not, right? So that's where the difference starts arising. Now, if you ask me at a very specific core feature set level, where the comparison has to be, for example, I want to deploy an avail node as a community. How can I do it on AWS? You lease out a VM, and then you do manual setup, and then you will be able to do it. It's a very, very long, lengthy process. And the biggest challenge here is you should be knowing developer stuff. Like you should be a developer to do it. So by doing this process, you are basically eliminating anyone, like anyone who doesn't have a tech knowledge. You are basically creating a wall for them not to get into this infra part just because they don't have a tech knowledge, right? That's where AWS basically comes into the picture and allows developer. Basically, they are more developer centric, and they are not very solution oriented, right? That's one part. The second part is like AWS has a vast amount of services. Like it's not just one. Like they have tons of things. Like they have been building since 2002. How can we imagine to compare with them? So there's no way of comparison. But they have one service which they call Lambda, like container services. So for example, you go ahead and say, hey, you know what? I want to spin up a container. Again, just for your audience, container is nothing but imagine there is a ship, a big ship, and that on that ship, a lot of these containers are sitting, and all these containers has a different kind of system or luggage or items inside it. It can be anything, right? So that's called containers in software world. So the similar way, AWS also has such kind of system which they use it. So that system is what we are building at Spheron at scale. So we are providing a ship. On with that ship, you have these containers. You can put whatever items into those containers. We don't care until unless now. The question comes here is like who owns that ship? Currently, that ship has been owned by AWS. In our case, it is not owned by us. It can be owned by anyone. That's one part. The second part, that ship can only be scaled as long as AWS has enough cash powder on their side to ensure that they keep on scaling. Now, the problem with that approach, the more they hold the ships, imagine in this way, you want to go in like anything which you hold in bulk, anything, like even it is water, land, or anything. Imagine one company holding all the land in the world, right? Is it really reasonable to hold them? No, they can't, right? So the same goes with them, right? They cannot hold all the ship. So that's where Spheron comes into the picture. So Spheron allows communities to own multiple ships, right? So you can bring your own ship. I can bring my own ship. Let's say my co-founder, like all of these people around the world can bring their own ship. Now, what is the benefit out of it? The money which was flowing to one company, one entity, now the same money is flowing to multiple people around the world, right? So what we are basically bringing is the right level of economical, or you can say incentive distribution across the world, so that not only one person who is coming out of that level of economical barrier, there are n number of people who are coming out of it, right? So for example, I had one machine which I want to rent it out. I can go ahead and do it. You have one machine you want to rent out, you can go ahead and do that. Why I should go and rent it out from AWS? Now, if there's a user who want to rent out machine from us, we can go and give it to them. So that user will be paying us, not AWS. There's a difference. And that's where Spheron comes into the picture, right? So Spheron deals more P2P way, like in our world of a Web3, which people understand. Like, so you do more P2P transaction in Spheron. So let's say I want to lease out a compute, you lease out directly from Andrew. You don't lease out from Spheron. Spheron is just a mediator in between. Not, you can say mediator, it's a trustless contract and trustless protocol, which allows this to happen in a very trustless manner. Okay. So that's the high level difference of between AWS, GCPs, and all of these vendors versus Spheron. I can go more deeper into that, but it will bore everyone here because if it will become more tech. But this is the high level differences, and that's where we differentiate. Again, I'm saying we are not here to compete with any centralized giants. I have a high respect for them because they are the people who have built the roadmap of all the technologies which we see today. We are the inheriting it, but what we are doing is like we are making it decentralized and permissionless, so that not only one entity can own it, anyone can own and power it, and anyone can access it without any KYCs or anything like that.
Okay, very cool. Okay, so to go back to the example of how the network operates and functions, I am looking for compute for whatever reason. I see that Prashant, you have, I don't know, H100, wherever. It doesn't
Yes.
actually matter. Well, maybe it does actually matter. Maybe the geography is very important. But you have an H100, and I'm like, great, I'm going to rent that for X amount of time, and then so I guess can you just take me through the user flow of how me as a user who needs compute, like how can I get that and use it and then be done with it?
All right. So imagine there are two parties here, a supplier and a user. So let's say for our example, you are our user and I'm your supplier. Okay. Now you said, hey, Prashant, I want RTX 4090 from the network. I'm just taking RTX 4090 as an example. So there are two ways you achieve it. The one is you ping me directly on TG and say, bro, like, can I lease out your system? Can you give it to me? Then I'll install any desk and any kind of remote systems and everything, and then I'll give you the access. Or you go to Spheron, you can say, bro, like I need your RTX 4090, can you lease out to me? I can say, yeah, I'll be more than happy. What you have to do is to deposit a payment here, and then you will automatically get an access of my system. Okay. So that's how it works. So the moment you say that, our system, which is our protocol, it asks for everything. What is the machine you need? How much you are ready to pay? This is the price which is currently I'm ready to pay. The location where I want this machine to be in, and all of those data which is required, and then you submit a request on chain, transaction on chain. I am a supplier for your resource. I'll be always listening to that event which is submitted on chain, and then when I find your order on the on chain, I'll tell you, hey Andrew, I have got you covered. This is my price. This is what I'm looking forward to pay you, and now your system is matched, and you receive. Then you start communicating to me directly. You don't go to on chain. So you only go on chain for the payment purpose and resource validation. Rest everything happens P2P. There's no on chain involved. So that your data is secure, your communication is secure, nobody's seeing that what is happening, but the payment basically goes because I'm providing you supply, right? It can also happen, and you can say, hey, you know what? You have just given me a machine, my job is done, I'm not going to pay you, right? So that's where the protocol comes, and that's how the system flow, user flow looks like.
Very cool. Okay, so in terms of fiat payments, what are the pros and cons? I think you kind of mentioned one there, but what are the pros and cons with a system like this that was trying to operate with just fiat?
A lot. The reason be because the moment you start accepting fiat, then you get restricted. Okay. So there is a lot of legal regulations also which attach with that, right? So imagine you want to lease out a bulk server from us, for example, at Spheron. Then you say, hey, you know what? I want 10,000 GPUs or 10,000 CPUs or whatever. Then if you are going to be paying in fiat, like for example, to me directly, then I should be a proper data center provider in my country. And I have to go and follow the regulation, what my country has. And then if you're sending in US dollar, you have to basically convert that Forex. It's a lot of mess, man. Like it's not as easy as it sounds. While in the Web3, the moment you bring the crypto in, you just eliminate all of this risk. Then the money flows seamlessly. You don't even have to worry about how you don't have to pay your bank anything. You just go and directly send the provider receives the money, and provider offloads that money wherever he wants to by paying a tax into the given regulations. It's very fairly straightforward. There's no banking system which is involved. There's no payment gateway which is involved. It's all blockchain. You commit a transaction, it happens. So that's the restriction. I think there are some companies in Web2 have done it. Like for example, DigitalOcean is a very good example, who started with creating this kind of model with a fiat, but they got also restricted because they have to manage multiple entities in multiple countries to do it. It's a nightmare. right? And we as a small team of 14 team members, 15 team members, like we can't do it now. And that's where Web3 comes into the picture, right? Build something which is permissionless, allow people to participate in the economy and be a very small team and sell the GPUs and CPUs at way lower cost, which people can even imagine, and these companies can ever imagine to sell. If they want to compete with us, they have to literally either reduce their workload, like they have to, which they can't, or they will always sell on premium. And while we can succeed because everything is been done by protocol, there's no massive team members involved in doing everything here, and that is where we reduce the OpEx. And when OpEx is reduced, the end consumer gets benefited out of it.
Are people paying within the Spheron network? Are they paying less than than they otherwise would in a non-crypto system? Does that make sense? A lot less. Is that because of the reduced overhead, or?
Yes. I'll tell you a very classic example. Okay, if you go to the market, RTX 4090, you can also search and type it if I'm saying anything wrong. RTX, even if you ask GPT will also tell you the same answer. The cost of RTX 4090 per hour rental is in the given scenario, which AWS doesn't give out very easily, but keeping other players also who are in the market, you will find 0.45, 0.35 to 0.45 to 0.5. Sometimes it goes to $0.6 per hour. Okay. While at Spheron, we just given some of these machines to our end users at 0.32, which is a lot less.
But like, sorry, what are these centralized players? Why are their costs so much higher?
As I said, like it's OpEx. Imagine there are thousands of entries working for a company and selling the same thing. On our side, there is only one guy, Prashant, who is working to sell this. Whose cost will be lower, yours or mine? Obviously mine, right? Because I'm not adding, because my individual salary cost, if I add it, it's going to be 1x the cost. While if I add yours, it will be 100x of the cost, and then the price will automatically go up unless you are not selling in a loss. Even though if I sell in the very less and minimal marginal profit, I'll always be able to sell lower than you because it's me. I'm individually selling it. You have fancy C-suites team members who are like going to different places and they're selling it, and they need to ensure that they are able to sell $100,000 margin profit, or else it doesn't make sense. So that's where the difference basically comes into the picture.
That makes sense. And then you mentioned KYC before. If I'm going to a centralized provider, if I need compute, do I need a KYC? Do I need to kind of go through as if it were like a bank?
Yeah.
But like, so money, you can make the argument that money can be used for terrorism, and that's why KYC AML is required. But for compute, I don't think, not yet anyways, compute can't be used to make a terrorist attack or do anything kind of that illegal from, besides generating, bad imagery or kind of illegal imagery or whatever. But why would KYC be involved in sending compute to someone?
There are multiple things. I'll tell you our example. So for example, if somebody is trying to use the system to farm something, when I say farm something, that basically means like I want to suck in all the bandwidth of the company, right? And that's where they want to ensure that only people who are verified, validated, right entity, right company is only able to access these compute, or else you are not allowed to. Even in today also, if you try to go and lease out GPU and CPU and scale from AWS, they won't give you. They will ask you to do the KYC. And if you don't do the KYC, or if you are not a business, you cannot do it. So for example, as a freelancer, if I don't have my own entity, I can only lease out certain amount of compute from AWS, just for your knowledge. Okay. So you as a free man, you are not allowed to do what you want to. Like you need to have an entity to do it.
That's crazy.
I don't understand the logic behind that, right? Because it's like it's unnecessary. But if you look at very closely, there is a reasoning which they have put forward. It's like people will use this system to do some malicious activities. Those malicious activities could be like attacking the systems, doing tons of other things, which is if you ask me today, like most of these things are already been done, right? Most of the people are already doing it. Like you even stop anyone or not stop anyone, you basically try to be as clean as possible. There is always a loop around to your system, which people are already exploiting you, right? When I always hear this question a lot is like, what if, and this is the Twitter question which has been given to me, like some of the very tech guys, they said like, what if Spheron can be used to combine this computing power to attack certain blockchain or a system to take it down? I said, like, that could be a very good use case. So that basically means like these blockchains should be sufficiently decentralized. If they are not, they should be attacked, right? And they should be taken down. If they are not be taken down, that's our problem as a community, and that's what we should build for. We should build a system where everyone is free to do whatever they wish to, and that is the world which we want to build. And this world is not harming anyone in any ways. And the beauty of this system is like it's a decentralized and P2P way, right? You always get to know which node is or which actor is doing malicious activities, and the moment you find it out, just block them. Their fund will be blocked, right? They won't be able to do anything else. Ultimately, whenever you do any kind of malicious activity, the output of that malicious activity is a transaction in Web3. So you don't really have to block the compute. You have to just block the transaction. It's a very, very, very good system. Let people exploit it. The more they exploit, the more transaction we will be able to block, and the more bad actors will be gone out of the network, right? Which could be a very good use case. And in the next couple of years, we can build a self-healing, self-iterative AI-based system, which basically finds out any of these transactions and keep on blocking, right? And these guys can't do anything anymore. I think this brings more robust system what Web2 has ever seen, and not just in one country. This can be implemented across the world. Like you do one scammy shit in US, you will get banned across the world. You cannot do anything, right? Today they can. People can send the money in cash, and right, all these hawala and all those things which happens, people can do with the cash. While with crypto they can't. So I think that's what people need to understand is like, yeah, there could be activities, but that's fine. That's how the world will evolve.
I want to talk about customers because you mentioned, that crazy fact where you have to be an entity, which that's, if I'm a student, like I'm not going to set up an LLC to like do an experiment, right? So that's crazy. But, on Wall Street, there's a lot of talk about, hey, NVIDIA and these other companies that they're massively overvalued and we haven't seen the demand on the GPU side yet, kind of justify these valuations that we're seeing, blah, blah, blah. And you're like boots on the ground. You're fully, within that ecosystem. Is the demand there? Will it continue to increase dramatically as the Wall Street analysts are worried about? And then yeah, like who are these customers? Are they students? Are they companies? Are they who are these people?
I think first of all, AI is not yet penetrated around the world. Like I think in the tech wise, it's I don't know the exact numbers, but it should not be more than 3 to 4% max in the overall, right? If we assume those numbers, then we are very undervalued yet. If you ask me, like a lot of companies in the world are very undervalued because the market share which they can capture is quite huge, right? In those terms, if we look at the percentage of adoption and penetration, and the reason I'm saying that is like India being a big population, very few people are using AI today, right? The same goes with the China. The same goes with any other major consumer-led economies out there in the world are having very less penetration of AI. And the moment when we start seeing that happening, then the value will skyrocket. That's the fact, right? Now coming back to, is there a demand for sub GPU or yeah, like if you look at this number, yes, there is always going to be demand, and we will keep on seeing the demand. It's like I always see, and we are also working on this. One of my teammate, he's currently working on to release an article, and we will release it from our side. And the article is very good. In the gold rush, the people who made a lot of money are the people who are selling the shovels, right? And in the AI rush, the people who are going to be making the money are the people who are selling the GPUs. It's a dot. There's no question asked, because without GPUs, you can't do anything. Without shovels, you could not have like taken out any gold out of the land, right? So the same theory is applicable here also, and it will replicate itself. The history will repeat, and it's already been repeated. And this history is, in the case of gold, it was limited resource. It was not horizontally scalable infinitely. In the case of GPUs and CPUs, these are digital thing, right? It can horizontally scale infinite. Like it can go as long as people imagination will think of. So I think there's a lot of value which will get accrued and unlocked, untapped value which are already there. Coming back to who are the users of these GPUs, and now I'm going to speak more around the Spheron perspective. For us, it is what we have noticed. It's mostly community members. I'll honestly, a lot of community members were not tech savvy, right? In Web3 also, like if you look at the numbers of developers versus the numbers of transactions which are happening, you will find a very high gap in between that. So essentially what it means, like there is very less developers, but there are a lot of people who have money, and these are the community members. What we have done for them is like we made their life very easy to participate in any token launches. For example, let's say I want to participate in, as I was giving the example of a whale, or even in the case of Spheron also, right? So today, people who participated in Spheron are the people who are able to run the nodes, right? Who are the people? Are the tech people. Now, these nodes are being sold to the people who are non-tech people. So, for example, somebody who doesn't knows about how to run a specific node, but they want to be the part of their community because they don't even have any other ways. So we have built an application which basically does it, right? So you go and click a node and launch it. It's very seamless and easy. The second kind of people is the developers. For example, at Spheron, we have, I want to lease out 8 GPUs, 10 GPUs, 100 GPUs, or 14 GPUs, or whatever. I can go to Spheron console. I can say rent it out. No question asked. You get the GPU, right? I'll tell you a very, very classic story. There is a team. I'll not take the name of the team. But those team members have told me is like, hey, you know what? AWS is giving me these GPUs. I said like, go ahead and feel free to use them. Okay. You know what happened? After a couple of days, they came back to us and they said like, bro, give us the GPU. The reason being because they will ask you tons of questions before giving it out because they don't trust you. We are a trustless system. We don't require any kind of trust. You don't have to trust me. You don't have to trust Prashant to give you the GPU. You trust the network and protocol. You go and lease out without question asked. And they lease out. Those are the users who are using us. We are still in very early because we have not yet seen a lot of demand because we don't have also huge amount of supply. But what we are seeing is like such kind of users are coming back to us because when they are seeing their bills are going quite high, they look for alternative, and the alternatives are the people like us who have a very small team size, and they are selling GPUs at very low cost than anyone else, and we'll keep on doing so. These are the segment as of now, and we want to stay in this segment. Our main logic is to like tap in the developer market, tap in the community who are less techy, and give them a tools and services so that they can participate in this Web3 economy at scale. And then tap into the businesses who are looking to lower their cost by renting out lower grade GPUs, which we are providing now, which is 4090s, A6000, B100s, and all of these things. So these are the set of customers where we are seeing the demand coming in.
Very cool. All right. So you mentioned the nodes. Are these the Fizz nodes that you have on your website, or what exactly are the Fizz nodes?
Yeah. So there are two nodes in the network. The one is called providers. Providers are the people who are data center, like farm servers and everyone. And Fizz nodes are the nodes who are the retail people. Like for example, in my office, I have 4070 Ti Super, which is currently lying idle, right? So for me, if I want to sell this to somebody who might need it, how can I do it? So that's where Fizz nodes come into the picture. So Fizz nodes are the community-led infrastructure altogether built around, which allows anyone, like even if you have a Mac device, if you have any device you want to lease out to anyone else, you can go ahead and do that. And the reason behind that is very simple. There are a lot of time as a developers, and you will understand, all the developers who will be listening to this podcast, they will relate it very well. If you try to run any models in your machine, every time you run any models, your machine threads are getting blocked. Threads are very expensive resources in any computer. So what if I sell you my thread, right? What if you use my system when I'm not using it and do your work? So that's where Fizznode basically comes into the picture. So it allows anyone to sell their own idle compute capacity without them when they are not using it. And then on the other side, user can lease it out just by paying 1/4 of the cost, right? And I'll tell you some costing here. Fizznode, the same machine will cost at around 0.14, 0.15, which a cloud provider might be giving you at around 0.3 or 0.4 or 0.5, right? So that's the difference. That's the magnitude of difference. And CPUs are dirt cheap. The currently market CPUs are like $3 or $4 or $5 per a month. In Fizznode, I guess it's gonna be like around $1, $2 max.
So it's cheaper because a lot of folks within the community are aiming to essentially farm the token, right? Is that kind of why they're willing to provide such cheap compute?
No, it's like your compute was not doing anything at all.
It was just
better
idle.
to connect with the Spheron, right? Farming is a very different point. I think farming is more of a supply side thing. Even though our token goes live and everything which happens, then we will definitely have to see like how many of them are going to be active. But as far as the tech perspective goes, it allows you to share your device, right? So there are a lot of community members who joined us just because they did not want to participate anywhere else. They said like, we believe in the thesis what you guys have, and we want to support researchers into the ecosystem. We want to support anyone into the system who want these many access compute. Even I was talking to a team from Stanford edu team. They have a lot of these compute capacity. They have sent out an email to me, and they said like a lot of time our researchers, they look for compute, they can't get it from like AWS because they don't have entity. As I said, it would be amazing to collaborate and see is like how we can use Fizz nodes where we can also share our own device, and in return of that we can also be able to lease out more devices from the network. So it could be a very dynamic thing which can be built around. We are still looking, we are very early in those things, in finding out the things. But yeah, token can also be the one part, like which is always obviously drives the thing. But I think it's more about like the mission alignment with the community.
Very cool. All right, and I saw on your website there's Spheron Cloud. Could you tell me what that is?
Yeah, as I said, like AWS and GCPs, right? So they provide a lot of these services, which are managed services on top of cloud, on top of their bare metals, basically, is institutional thing. So that's where the cloud comes in the picture. So we want to ensure that the cloud which we are building, it's getting built on a deep-in compute network, which is ours, right? Which we are building. A cloud which is managed. So, for example, I'll give you a very classic example. There is a technology called Ray, or there are multiple technologies like that which clusters multiple compute together and give you the inference endpoints. Now, today, doing that on Spheron could be a little tricky for a lot of community members. What if we build a service layer on top of it? What if we just allow you to go and say, hey, just click it button and you don't have to worry about it. We take care of all the infra workload on Deepin, but what you have to just give us a small premium, and we ensure like all the stability and everything is done from our side. So that's the part of a cloud. And and one more thing here, just to add on, this cloud can be built by anyone on Spheron. It cannot be just us. I'm just reiterating it so that people should not correlate that what the hell, guys, you guys were just talking about this decentralization, now you are moving to a centralization. No, it's us. We are building on top of protocol. It can be anyone. So let's say if somebody wants to compete our cloud, they can go ahead and do that. They are very open to it. We don't control infra. We are just using the same existing infra as it is. Like, and anyone can use it because we have the protocol. We have SDK. We are a protocol. Right? Anyone can build whatever they wish to on top of it. So they can build a cloud. They can do whatever they want to. So that's the cloud example which I want to share with you.
Very cool. Okay, so also you recently announced something called Skynet, which is something to do with AI agents and some sort of AI agent framework. Could you dig into that?
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, so if you look at most of the agents today, right, in the market, those agents are being controlled by the devs and the creators. In reality, those agents are not autonomous. And at Spheron, we believe in revolutionary thing, like to think something which is very out of the box, like which people could have not built what we have done with the compute. So in Spheron, there's one thing which is very classic. It's called you execute a transaction and we give you a compute, right? It's very beautiful statement. Like you just submit a transaction, we give you the compute, right? If the compute exists in the marketplace, you get that. Now imagine the same thing with the AI agents. An agent is looking for a compute. Now, what that agent requires to do, that agent needs to just commit a transaction, and that agent will get a compute. With that theory, these agents can self-heal themselves. They can create their own economy. They can create their own offspring, on the own children. They can do tons of things without me as a human intervening into their existence, right? They can go ahead and do, say, for example, I want to, so there is a creator who came in and he created an agent which says like, give me a profit of X amount of this money and keep this much with you and rest you keep on running wherever you want to, right? So what this agent can do, he can go ahead and he can say, bro, like I'm going to be launching my own compute and my own offspring who will be doing certain thing on my behalf. And this intelligence, this collective intelligence I'll be using to do trading on your behalf, right? So that's what Scanet basically does. And this collective trading will, again, they will create their own profit to pay for their own compute. Imagine this way, like I give this a very good theory. Like if you want to live in a water, like in any ecosystem, like in the world of water also, water is the basic thing which fish need or anyone need who lives inside the water. Even in the case of Earth, you need a land to live on Earth. And so for us, this compute is an earth for these agents, or for a water for these agents. So till the time we have something for them, they will keep on running, keep on thriving without our interventions. And that's where Scanet plays a very vital role. Scanet is a framework. It's getting designed around to ensure that people, creator, you, me, or anyone else, are able to launch an agent which is completely autonomous, which is out of our control. It's very dangerous to also speak about it, but it's fun to kind of see. Is like how technology can bring lot. Who knows? A developer can come in and build something which is truly gonna change productive cycle for a lot of us as humans, right? So that's what Scanet basically brings on the table.
Very cool. All right, so there are multiple decentralized compute networks out there. There's not that many, but there are some. The one that I've spoken to, Greg from Akash, and so that was a very good and interesting conversation. And I'm just wondering, what are the differences between what you're building and these other providers? Because from my tracking, I think I've tracked like 25 that are launching this year, 25 different decentralized compute networks involving crypto. Because it makes total sense, right? So I get that, but how are people going to differentiate?
It's a very okay. So first thing, very high respect for Akash team, because we have been using Akash earlier, and we have built our first system on Akash. So if you remember, like during October 2023, November 23, Akash active leases skyrocketed. It was us, like, who basically built that abstraction layer on top of
awesome.
it, on top of them. But slowly and steadily, we realized, because our mission and their mission is very different in a lot of ways. Our mission is to, okay, yes, we want to bring data center compute, we want to bring everything else, but our mission is also to bring the retail compute in. Because if you look at AI agents and the thing which we wanted to build, this autonomous system, we cannot have 5 systems to do it. We need hundreds and thousands of these to come alive and become active. So today we have, as we speak, we have more than 17,000 active node runners in the network, like, who are providing their compute infrastructure to us. So just imagine you launch an agent today on Spheron. You never know where this autonomous agent will be living in the world. It can be living in somewhere in the world in this 17,000 nodes, right? And we keep on growing, and we keep on adding those numbers up. So that's one unique advantages on Spheron, right? Because we have been built on Spheron, like Akash earlier, and then we realized, okay, so this is something which they are lagging. We have added those features also on top of Spheron. The other cool thing which we have done in Akash is like, if you go and lease out a compute, for example, you have to. It's a Cosmos base. That's one thing. That's a very big bottleneck. I feel that the reason it's my feeling, again, it's my opinion. There are a lot of developers, their opinion might be different. It's my opinion, because if you are building any such kind of ecosystem, you have to find an ecosystem where you have a lot of builders, because these computes are going to be consumed by builders. They are not going to be consumed by some normal, like, anyone like that. Like, and if you want to bring those consumption, you have to be the place where there are a lot of builders. And with no doubt, Ethereum has more builders than anyone else in the market, right? Whatever the report comes into the picture, you will find like a lot of EVM developers out there, and it's very high, it's very tough to outcompete EVM at this point of time, even though Solana pricing are pumping up, right? So that's the other advantage which Spheron has. Like, we are EVM first, so that basically means, like, you don't have to bridge your asset to any such kind of thing. You go execute transaction on EVM chain on base, and you get the output, like, you get the compute out of the box. That's the other thing. The third and the most important, and there are tons of things basically. Like, we have built this tiering system which they don't even have. We have a resource validation system which is on-chain resource validation system. Resource validation is basically like, you cannot fake the system in Spheron. If you fake it, you will get slashed. So those systems are already built in Spheron, which nobody has. Then we have matchmaking system, where we have wrote a very big white paper around it, like how matchmaking works. They don't even have. So like that, we have tons of other features, which they, like, it's like I always tell that, yeah, they are doing great work in those things, but we have added a lot of these. As I said, our main focus at Spheron is to make developer fall in love with Spheron when they use it. And the only way it can happen is like you give them an experience which they used to get everywhere else, not a degen way of accessing the Web3 ways, right? Where you are doing bridging assets, doing tons of other things in order to just to get one compute. This is not going to work out. We should be like, it should be very easy peasy. Like you just go submit transaction, you get the compute, do work, you go, you lease out compute. You want to lease out from data center, you want to lease out from a retail drive, you are free to do that, right? And you want to combine multiple devices, you are free to do that. So that's where it basically creates a very high level differentiation. Now coming to the 20 projects who are working on 25 projects, I think most of them we were also know at Spheron, honestly speaking. And believe me, there is if you build an infrastructure, it's like a real estate. I always tell people it's not easy. It may sound good on paper to go and say, hey, you know what? We are from Stanford and Oxford and all of these Ivy League colleges, and we are very well qualified to do it. It's not true. This is not how the world works. You come from anywhere else, world take its infra takes its own time to mature. You cannot mature it by just by putting your Ivy League certificate in front, right? It's never going to be happening. It's the same with real estate. If you look around yourself, you will rarely find very good Ivy League candidates like creating the real estate companies and succeeding into it. It's very simple. It takes a lot of time, patience, 3 to 4 years timeline to even make it mature enough to have all of us. And we have been doing this for like more than 1 year, 2 years, like close to around 2 years now. Nobody has better experience, and we were the builder first. We did not just copy pasted anyone, right? We went ahead, we built on top of them, we built on Filecoin, we realized, okay, how storage works. We built on Akash, we realized how Akash work. We were builder first before even launching any protocol. So we know a lot of in and outs, what the lot of compute protocols don't even know, because there is lot of problems which comes into the picture when you build any of the infrastructure, like which is huge. And I also want to see what are those protocols coming into the picture. Recently, there were a couple of protocols came in by promising that they have a decentralized infrastructure. The moment you go to their protocol, they will ask you to submit a form. What the heck is this, right? So you should not ask people to submit a form if it is a permissionless system. They should be able to lease out the compute quite seamlessly. So that's where we differentiate ourselves. We are builder first. We don't go out in the market and tell like we are decentralized when we are not. We are when we say, like, if we say today, like, people can lease out compute today from Spheron, they are free to lease out. That's the difference between like others and us.
Yeah, it's funny that actually reminds me. I think it was 23 or 24, I forget, but a few years back or a year back, who knows? There was a company that I'm connected to, and they needed compute, and they wanted to approach a very large project within the crypto ecosystem. I'm not going to say who, and they wanted to approach them for compute because that's what they did. They provided compute to companies, or companies, people, et cetera, whoever needed it. And I spoke to the team, and this company that I was connected to that needed the compute, they happened to be in the world of AI, boyfriends, girlfriends, and so there was some not safe for work, language being exchanged between the users and the AI and whatnot. And I explained that to this team, and they're like, "Oh, we actually don't allow that." And I was like, "But you guys are a global decentralized, compute provider." And they're like, "Yeah, but we don't allow that." And I was just like, oh, "Okay, that kind of defeats the purpose a little bit of your objective." But anyhow, yeah, no, it just reminded me of that story where I was very surprised that, okay, a lot of these are not actually globally decentralized, et cetera, et cetera. They're kind of just facades. But anyhow, that was my 2 cents. All right, so token. So you guys do not have a token, or you guys have a token currently, and I'm uncertain. But also, if you guys will have a token, what will that token be used for?
So as of now, we don't. That's a good part, and that's also a bad part, because that's the reason like a lot of people don't know about us. We are currently working on to integrate that. Now, coming to the utility of the token, I think it's a very good question after the Trump token launch. So like we should definitely talk about the utility also, like because we have a utility in theory and practicality also. So on this Spheron side, there are multiple ways this token is going to be useful. So for example, if anyone is becoming the part of a network, right? So they cannot just become a part of a network. They have to put certain skin in the game to become the part of a network. For example, I want to provide a compute to the Spheron. I cannot just like we don't want anyone to become the part and provide the compute, because there is certain level of uptime which we require, and those certain level of uptime can be only brought in if people have a skin in the game. Because what I learned from Web3 is one thing: the protocol which survived are the protocol who charge from day one. Okay. So if you look at Ethereum, you have to pay gas fees. No matter you, even if you know Vitalik very closely, Vitalik is not going to give you the gas fees, right? So you have to pay gas fees. The same goes with anywhere else in the Web3. Like whenever you look at any protocol, you have to pay that fees to ensure that you have become the part of the protocol. The same with Spheron. If you want to become and provide a compute to network, you have to stake certain amount of compute, like spawn token, to ensure that you are able to part of a network. That's one part of the Spheron, because it allows us to build the network integrity and also robustness. And you bring a spawn token as a security to basically take an oath that, bro, like I'm not going to be like going off. If you are going off, your spawn token will get slashed. So that's the whole incentive and idea of spawn. The second is there are two part of this Spheron. One is called provider network, and another is called Fizz network. Providers are allowed to accept any token. So they are data center, they are regulated entities, right? So if they are regulated entities, so they cannot do multiple things which retail devices can do, because retail devices you can't do anything. It's all behind the walls of a lot of ISPs. You cannot even reach out to them. While data centers, they have IP addresses which are being mapped to the world, and they know like this data center owns this IP. So they come with a lot of strictness and robustness and everything. So they cannot accept spawn token as such because of different regulations in different countries. And that's where beauty of Spheron comes into the picture. Spheron allows these data centers to accept a token whatever they wish to. For example, Andrew wants to pay in USDC because he lives in US, and he doesn't want to pay in, let's say, in Spawn token because Spawn is not allowed in US yet. So am I going to lose out my US customers? Fuck no, I'm not going to do that. Like, so that's where Spheron signs. Like you can pay in your own native currency, and the moment you pay that, the commission which will be charged between that transaction will be used to buy back Spheron from the market. Okay, and burnt. So that's how the spawn holders will keep on accruing the value in the longer term. As long as the network is active and accruing the value, the spawn token will keep on accruing the value on the provider side. And these are the bigger deals. These are not smaller data centers which are paying a very small amount. Coming to the second part on the provider side, Fizz side. Fizz are the retail grade GPUs and CPUs. So that basically means like they can accept whatever the token they want to. They don't care about. So they are revolutionaries, I call them. Right, so they are the people who don't care about the world. So they want to build a system which is more transparent enough and borderless and everything. So they are free to accept whatever token they wish to, and we are by default in Fizz network. Spawn is integrated. So that basically means like if you want to accept or access any retail grade devices, you need to pay in Spawn. You cannot pay in any stable currencies. Okay, and that's also been done to avoid certain legal restriction and legal jurisdiction. So that's the reason like it is there, to ensure that we are not accruing a lot of USDC supply on our side, honestly. So we want to ensure that we have a Spawn is being utilized very heavily. That's the third part. The fourth and the most important part is the governance. So as a token utility, we need to ensure that governance. I know governance is a myth in Web3, but we want to make it a fact. So in Spheron, there are multiple ways governance can come into the picture. First, to adjust inflation. For example, hey, you know what? Today we charge one spawn. Now spawn token went to $1. So is it really worth paying $1 for the same CPU? Most likely no. Then you go ahead with the governance proposal and say reduce the price. The price will reduce. Now I want to do a bounty. I want to bring in more developers and do all of those stuff. You go and raise a proposal on governance and build on top of Spheron permissionlessly, and we'll fund you. So all of these initiatives, incentives, and everything will be driven by governance. So that's the governance part. And then on top of that, there are tons of other things which will come as we kind of grow, like staking and other where community can also involve in, where community can come in and say, hey, you know what, I believe in Andrew and his systems are very good. I want to stake on Andrew's system. You can go ahead and do that and take a profit cut margin of Andrew. So all of the systems are also there.
Very cool. It's like, so myself as like a retail investor, I can participate in the growth of someone's kind of data center or kind of, GPU growth themselves.
Yes.
It's very cool.
That's
it's
true.
Like I come from kind of the NFT gaming consumer side. So I think of like the kind of like Axie Infinity enabling people to, connect with other folks that want to use their Axies to farm and whatnot. So that's very, very interesting. So speaking of retail person, what is the best way for myself, a retail person, just to participate in Spheron? If I want to, maybe have some token exposure in the future, or maybe go buy a Fizz node, or maybe go buy it. Like I have a spare GPU, set that up and start contributing. Like, what are the best ways for retail folks to participate?
It's fairly straightforward, as I said. Like, so at Spheron, our main focus is to build a very solid community and give out the token to the folks who are contributing value to the network. And today, when we don't even have a token, the only way to participate in Spheron is to provide the compute, is your GPU or CPU. For example, if you have a MacBook or laptop or M4 Mini or anything, whatever you have, or even any kind of GPU which you own, you can go to fizz.spheron.network, or you can just go to Spheron.network site, go and navigate to Fizz, and just click on setup and register and start registering your node and become the part of the network. Once you register the node, you have to it will guide you everything, step-by-step guide to set up the node. And it's a fairly straightforward guide. So you don't really need a tech knowledge to do it. If you have a system and laptop, you can just do it. Just follow the steps, whatever it says, and you'll be the part of a network. And this is for the retail, like if retail wants to participate. Now, when it comes to, let's say, token exposure, if you don't have a GPU or anything like that, but you still want to go ahead with the token exposure, then there is one more way, but that way is already gone. That was to become the part of the ambassador community of the Spheron, where you can help us to spread the word of Spheron across your country, your people, and every places where we give out incentive to ambassadors to become the part of the network. The third, which is going to be happening, is soon. The spawn is going to be on Dex or like the R6 or wherever it's going to be. You can become the part there by just getting early. And one more thing, we have decided at Spheron, and this is not yet public domain, it will become public soon, is we want to ensure that community is able to participate as early as possible. And we want to ensure that community comes in as more of like as a VC into the network. So when we are launching our token or anything is happening down the line, it will be community first, and nothing else next. Like, so it's gonna be purely community first. So if you are a community member and retail and you want to participate, turn on your notification whenever you see that's happening. Then please go ahead and do that, because it will be very early for a lot of folks to join in.
Very cool. That's awesome. All right, so I want to talk to you about kind of broad AI topics like data centers and just training models and whatnot. Just because you probably know way more than me. Definitely know way more than me. So DeepSeek, which is this really crazy model coming out of China, they announced some incredible things today. They basically are like, hey, we are, because OpenAI basically is potentially going to be releasing on January, I think 30th, they're meeting with the US government to say, hey guys, we have something special here. It's still speculative as to what exactly they're going to be announcing, but basically they think they're going to be announcing a very, very intelligent agent. But then DeepSeek just came out of the woodwork today and was like, hey guys, we also did this, and it's completely open source, right? Anyways, just tell me like about DeepSeek and about these different models and what you think the future, meaning like 2025, 2026, like holds.
Yeah, I think what DeepSeek is doing great is like they're open sourcing a lot of model weights. So that basically means like people like us, like as I said, like if you have the models and things are open source, developers around the world can do magics around it. So you are not being blocked from the access. The moment you make any models more private, they are like private. You don't really know if the models are being influenced by some data which is not factually correct, right? So that's where I think the open source things comes into the picture, and DeepSeek has done a very amazing. I think today only they have released it while we are recording this, the model R1 today, and as far as I can see, they have claimed that it is way more better than what models which we have seen so far. So I have not tested honestly, so I don't know like what exactly is the outcome of it. But the best part is it's open source, right? And the worst part about OpenAI is not open source. So GPT, and we don't know like on which model all of these models are getting trained. So that's where I think that difference, a huge differentiation comes into the picture. And in the 2025, what we are going to see is the models which are open source are going to be capturing the entire market versus the models which are closed source. And the only reason being because so far everyone was just looking at AI as a toolkit or an intern or somebody who is assistant to them. But what if that assistant you have just hired is malicious? You don't know, right? You don't know that answer which it is giving you is highly influenced by a lot of things, right? So imagine if you ask, and I was discussing with one of the team members, like I was very like very amazed to see that how can somebody influence the decision of someone but just by manipulating and tweaking certain things into the chat GPT, right? And when it is been controlled by one centralized entity, it's massive. So imagine if you search today, Google search engine, right? So you search a Google for a specific question and you find that question and you get the answer, right? You go to ChatGPT, you search for a question, you get the answer, but you also get certain links 1, 2, 3, right? What you are essentially saying is like anyone who ranks 1, 2, 3 rank, our data are going to be only analyzed, but not somebody who ranks 10, even though their data and their content is way better than number one. It can happen in the world of content. It can happen that I publish one content today on Google which may not have a very high level of authenticity, but it has a way better explanation, way better knowledge than anyone who is ranking at top one, because then they crack the code of Google, which is SEO code, and they ranked one, right? So eventually you are promoting the someone who is gaming the system versus you are not promoting someone who is not gaming system and really producing the right content for the end user. So you are eventually killing a creator who's supposed to be promoted. How are you going to validate such kind of a thing? How you are going to be ensuring that this kind of a thing also being handled, right? So that's where I feel like there is a huge need of moderations around these things, where not just the top ones are getting promoted, or else we are going to be living in the world where only top people are going to be like, it's like we are going to be living in the world where rich are going to be richer and richer, and the difference between the rich and poor will create a huge, so that it just never it never sucks in, like it never comes closer. And if we don't want that world, we need to be open source. We need to ensure that the world has the theory, and people like us, people like you, people anyone in the world can build an application which can also analyze somebody's whose search engine is not taking out top three, it's also taking out top 10, top 5, last 10, best content, tons of other logics can be built around, right? And it can only happen if it is open source.
Totally. Okay, so data centers. I forget the expend of all the top, the Mag 7 companies, but I remember reading Microsoft alone is going to spend $80 billion next year, or next few years on data centers, which is just astronomical. It's like more than most countries' GDP or something like that. Not most countries, but a huge portion of countries. What are your thoughts on data centers and just kind of the growth from here? Because you guys are building a decentralized data center essentially.
It's going to be massive, honestly speaking. The reason being because as I said, like, so we are still in a very early days of AI agents. We are early days of AI revolution. We have still not seen a lot of very focused LLMs being rolled out, specific domain-related LLMs being rolled out, right? So there are a lot of things which has to be built, and all of these things are going to be requiring a lot of compute, right? And if there are a lot of compute requirements which are there, we are going to be seeing a lot of demand trickling down to the compute infra layer, where we need a lot of compute to perform this computation at scale. And that's where these data centers, compute providers, anyone will come into the picture, right? So we are going to see a robust growth in the data center revenue also. And as far as I can see, like I'm seeing a lot of these data centers who we talk to have a very good numbers as opposed to what they were supposed to be posting it out. So we are going to see a more better numbers. But what we are also going to see is like a lot of retail will start participating just because of the Web3 layer data center enable machines, right? What we are doing at also at Spheron. So now every home can become a data center. Imagine in this way. So if that happens, then it will be massive. Like it's not just singular data center, but the entire community will benefit out of it as such, because then I can go and buy any new devices as a retail and connect it to the Spheron and give it to somebody who is looking for at a way lower cost what I bought it. So it's a very huge benefit. It's I'm if I'm going to be a retail, what I'm going to be doing is like buying as much GPU as possible at my house and create a resource arbitrage where the machine which I'm buying and I'm selling, I can basically connect it and create arbitrage and get a benefit out of it. So that's what I'll be doing.
Okay, so that actually goes into my last question before the closing questions. But so if I'm a retail participant and I want to invest in the rise of AI, the rise of data centers, et cetera, I want to invest in that trend. My options are Mag 7, the Google, Facebook, et cetera, these big players, which those stocks are already, extremely valued. Maybe it's fair value, who knows? Data center REITs, which I don't know, for whatever reason, REITs have, underperformed for reasons that are above my pay grade, but not a very attractive proposition. And then I kind of look at, and maybe there's something I'm missing, and then I kind of look at the decentralized options, like the crypto options, which that to me seems the most promising. Obviously, I'm biased, and so are you. But as a retail participant, how should I? What is the best option for me to participate in the growth of AI and kind of the AI infra, meaning like data centers and GPUs?
Right. So I think you have already answered that while you were asking the question. Is if you look at the REIT, right? So in the REIT, you are able to participate only when the things are going up, or they have already gone sufficiently up, right? The same goes with stock. They might have already gone up, and then you are participating into, right? There is no other way to do it. While in crypto, essentially in the world of ours, you can participate by running those GPUs. You have electricity in your house. You can just go and buy a GPU and connect it and just connect and resell it. You'll be able to make more than what you will be making from buying these stocks. These stocks will only give you 30%, 40% return out of it, right? Imagine the best case scenario. In the best case scenario, it can go to 2x, 3x, depending on that. While in crypto, when you are attaching a GPU, you are getting two things at once. First, you are getting the payout when somebody is leasing out your compute. The second, you are getting a part of that company itself from the initial valuation, like basically as a network reward, right? As a network reward, when you get a part, so nobody gives you a stock free of cost. You basically buy stocks. Here you are getting, I'm not going to term stock, but you are getting a token which is a part of this entire protocol just by connecting your GPUs. So essentially, you are exposed to two things. You are exposed to the stable value, and then you are also exposed to the speculative value of it, which stock also has, right? Imagine now if a protocol goes from some $1 million valuation to $1 billion valuation, then you have right away exposure from day one to day 100 with them, right? It's crazy, which you can never make it in Web 2 world. And that's I'm not biased because I'm building in Web 3. I'm biased because the numbers are mismatching in the world. Here you have, whenever you participate, you get a entity and you own that entity because of you are providing a value. There you are buying their stocks, but what you are getting in return, right? You are already buying at a very high end speculative prices, which none of the Web3 company has reached yet. So you have enough potential and enough runway. Just spray. If you are retail, and that is what I'm also doing, is buy the compute players out there in the market, because and buy the ones who are working. Don't buy somebody who are not even working, because they anyways are not going to be like able to accrue the value before the run happens. So buy the ones which are working, and the moment the AI agent and everything will start thriving in the Web3 ecosystem, you will find like these protocol will have very less resources ideal also to kind of lease out, and that's when the humongous value will accrue, because you need their token to run this compute. And if you don't buy their token, and the moment you buy more of their token, if you are holder of a token, you are eventually accruing a lot of value, right? So yeah, so I would not go much more deeper into that, but it's a very clear indication that that's how the value differentiation exists today, and we need that value differentiation to merge at certain place with the Web2 world. Even if it is reaches to 40% of the value, which even 20-30% of the value which Web2 companies have, it's massive. It's like then we are talking about 50 hundreds of billions of dollars. We are not talking about millions of dollars here. So it's massive. The only thing we can go and achieve there is if we work all as a community and ensure that we are able to have this much of a supply accrued, which can happen. So yeah, I think that would be my take on the value creation there.
Awesome. All right, Prashant, it is time for the closing questions. All right. What is the price of Bitcoin in 1 year from now?
I want it to be like $1 million, but I don't think it's going to be. What I want is to see like at least 200K and 250K coming in this year.
Wow.
I hope so, because if you look at the macro in US, it was not that great. And the only place to hedge against any of these things today are only few assets: Bitcoin, gold, silver, and commodities. And Bitcoin is one of the fifth number, I believe, in the chart now. So people will rush towards to hedge that. That's one thing. And if more and more people will do that, then we'll see the jump in the prices. The other thing is like there are certain countries yet who has not regulated Bitcoin yet, and they have not allowed their companies to own the Bitcoin in the balance sheet. And some of those countries are also the developing countries, BRICS nation also, which includes who have not done it yet. And if they do it, then we are going to see a huge inflow of capital which will be coming in, and stocks on these markets are already been saturated, as you have said. For example, Nvidia and all of these stocks are already overvalued. What we are going to see is like people will flock into the Bitcoin because it has still good potential and supply is limited, and everyone knows this game now, where there's a limited supply. Jump into that, or else it will be too late. But yeah, we are going to see a dip which will be coming in for sure. But at least now the confidence in the market around the Bitcoin is quite high. Seeing that as an asset, and seeing that US is also going to be the leading country into the same space if Trump decides to, right? If the things goes the really right way, then it just sets a lot of clear path for a lot of countries to enable it. If that happens, we are going to see a massive demand which is coming in.
Love it. I definitely hope you're right. 200, 250, that'd be wonderful. All right. What is a book, movie, podcast, some form of content that had a major impact on you?
Honestly speaking, there are many, but if somebody is really looking forward to kind of learn deeply around the crypto AI and everything, the people who are writing a lot clearer and their thoughts are very clear when they write, they don't just shell it, they write real tech, are the people who I want to call it out very openly are 0x Prismatic. He goes with the name Teng Yan, like Teng Yang on Twitter. Very good writer. On Chain Thoughts, you can just search them also. They are Chain of Thoughts. Is their subscribe like newsletter which they run. Very amazing one. One should definitely take a look. They have also a very good mind share in AI space. Then we have Sammy. She has been doing a very amazing job in posting out the content around the AI and doing a deep research. And then we have Zeph. He has been doing amazing work, posting out some of the very in-depth details around. The reason I'm giving out these names is because these guys have been writing and because I've noticed one thing when we launched Skynet, it was a truly amazing thing which people could have thought about, and the only people who picked are these people because they really know the tech on the bottom. And the people who know the tech, and when they talk about, I love it. I personally love it because they really know the fundamentals. They are not just someone who just writes something which comes in the market. They are not just a shiller machine who are keep on selling. They are selling the shilling the tech, they are shilling the utility, they are not shilling the meme and random shitcoins. And then there are a couple of more crypto folks who have been doing a great job, but these are the people who I personally follow also, doing amazing work in what they do, and I would congratulate them to keep on doing the same thing what they are doing. And we are also we are trying to find more folks. I would love to, once this podcast goes out, I'd love to tag them also, like ask my team member who they are following, and I'll also paste them there.
Amazing. Awesome. All right, last question. What does success look like for you?
When I see 20-30% at least Web3 infra, Web3 players, Web3 developers, Web3 community members utilizing Web3 infrastructure for their day in and day out use cases, that's what my success is. And until that doesn't matter, I am going to be here for the next 10, 20 years, however long it takes. Even if I go bankrupt, doesn't matter. I'll keep on only saying one thing: use Web3 infrastructure before it's too late, before it becomes centralized on the bottom side. And that's only my philosophy in my life. And my whole career is going to be revolving around it, to ensure that we reach to that level, so that at any given point of time, if these guys try to screw us as a Web3 entity, as a Web3 fam, we all can throw them back, just because we own more than 51% of the entire quorum of Web3 infrastructure. If it doesn't happen, but I'm here to ensure that happens. That's the success looks like for me at Spheron, and then as a Web3 infra maxi also.
It's amazing. Sir, Prashant, thank you, man. This was incredible. Loved having you on. And if people want to find out more about yourself and Spheron Network, where should they go?
They should just type Spheron on Google, Spheron. We have done a very amazing job in doing the SEO, so you'll be able to find us. But if you're not, then you can go to spheron.network, which is a website, a very well designed website. Again, go back down. There is a contact list. You will find Discord, Twitter, and all the links there. If you're not even comfortable in doing that, if you're watching it on Twitter, type Spheron FTN Foundation, which is basically means FTN, and then you go and follow us there. You will find all the details there again, because we have all the links pasted out there for everyone's information. Even if you are lazy enough on doing that, and if you are on Discord, type Spheron as a server and join on Spheron server and ask us question there. There is a ticket channel, which if you open up and you want to ask any question, not even ticket channel, you want to ask anything openly, whatever I spoken here, and you go against to it, or you have your own opinion, your own thoughts, your own view you want to share with us, we are always open to feedback and criticizes and critiques. Feel free to send us, tag us, do whatever you want to, and we'll be more than happy to. And you are going to be hearing back from me personally if you tag me. And my tag is Prashant_XYZ. I'll be more than happy to respond to you back wherever you tag me, and also send you all the links along with it.
Amazing. All right, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me here, man. Really loved it.
Awesome. Talk soon.
Same here. Bye-bye. Cheers.